Hey guys, remember to like the video and hit subscribe.
Nowadays, we don't even look twice at the scale of the corruption that Donald Trump has put our country in. It is an absolute disgrace that we have, for example, the sitting mayor of New York doing a corrupt quid pro quo, a political quid pro quo, to do political favors for the sitting commander-in-chief in exchange for his personal freedom. I don't hear Sean to defend the mayor in terms of his corruption. Sean will acknowledge that Mayor Adams is corrupt, and yet Sean is quite all right, quite fine with, or apparently willing to say that it's not corrupt, or that that this corruption should be overlooked in favor of some political preference. It is absolutely scandalous. The level of infiltration of the executive branch into the legislative prerogatives, deleting wholesale agencies like the CFPB, deleting U.S. aid that was statutorily approved. You
mean USAID?
might disagree, for example, with some of the funding decisions by your congresspeople, but those are congresspeople's decisions to make. Donald Trump's decision to completely halt all federal funding, all spending whatsoever. This is a infiltration. It is a attack on our Constitution, and nothing that Joe Biden did in his entire 4 years in office pales at all in comparison to what's going on there. They told us in their Project 2025 handbook what they were planning to do. What they want to do is centralize authority. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're doing illegal firings of inspectors general. They're doing illegal firings of independent agencies. And why? To make the functioning of the bureaucracy stop. What Donald Trump wants to do is make it so he determines what his money is spent on. He determines whether or not people are investigated politically. Joe Biden never, ever did anything like that. I am willing and happy to acknowledge certain actions that Joe Biden did that I do not agree with, that I've even called corrupt. I've called his pardoning of his own family corrupt. I'm willing to do that. But think about this. The sitting commander-in-chief, the President of the United States, let out 1,500 thugs who attacked our Capitol. Possibly the single most corrupt action taken by a president in the history of the Union. We have a president who supported these terrorists, these maniacs who attacked our congresspeople and tried to overthrow the election. Some indicted for and convicted of seditious conspiracy. And you guys think it's a fucking joke. It's not a joke. These people tried to upend the constitutional order, and now he's put out his deniable thugs into the world. Some of them literally who have been indicted recently. And what is this all for? What is the purpose? The purpose is to install a king. That's what he wants to be. And I'm warning you right now. He wants to be a king, and he wants to have the authorities of a king. You hear it in what he talks about. He just tweeted the other day, quoting Napoleon, and you guys think it's a joke. He's turning our country into Hungary. Joe Biden never did anything like that. And if we want to go down the policies, I'm happy to do it. Happy to talk about, I'm a liberal. I'm going to put my, cards on the table. You guys know that. So I'm going to prefer Democratic policies over MAGA policies. But how has your life meaningfully improved at all in the time that Donald Trump has taken office? Have prices gone down? He promised on day one to make prices go down. He's a liar, because what he cares about is not efficiency. What Elon Musk cares about is not efficiency. What they care about is taking down this country's bureaucracy, taking down our agencies, and stopping Congress from doing its job and taking over. That's what he wants. And what's coming next is so predictable. He is gearing up for, as they all have done, and as the Chief Justice of the United States, someone who I disagree with a lot on, has warned about, he's going to defy the courts. That's what they're prepping for. And what are you guys going to do when he does? What are you going to do, Sean? Are you going to call for his impeachment when he defies a court openly? Basically, he's already violating court orders. There was a U.S. District Court out of Rhode Island where they acknowledged, yes, he violated the order, the plain text of the order, and where it was open and obvious, there was no excuse for it. And so that's what they're prepping for next. And these people are going to defend it all the way. They're going to make these absurd comparisons to Biden's student loans, absurd comparisons to overreaches by the Obama administration. I'm not here for it. I'm here for the Republic, for the Constitution, and that's why Joe Biden's policies are incredibly better than Donald Trump's policy of corruption and centralization of authority.
Thank you very much for that opening, Pisco. We are going to kick it over to Sean for his opening as well.
Can you guys hear me? Oh, okay, I got this. Okay, so I noticed in his opening statement, he didn't really talk about a lot of actual policies of the Biden administration. And the reason that he didn't do that is because there aren't really these great policies that you can point to talk about the successes of that administration. under President Trump, under his first term, because we have not just the 20 days of him being in office or whatever amount of days he's been in office as of late. We have a whole first term. The median middle class income rose by $4,400. Now, the Heritage Foundation, which is very biased, will of course say it's $7,000. Some naysayers will say that it's $2,200. But according to a CBS report, which was trying to ding him because rich incomes went up faster, it was $4,400. That's everyday Americans being improved due to the economic policies of the Trump administration. The Biden administration, people lost $2,200 in income when it's adjusted for inflation. Obviously, when we talk about what the policies are and if they're better, the question should be better for who, and I think the who should be the American people. And in my opinion, that stat alone is one example of the economic policies being better for the American people. Now, as for Joe Biden, the idea that anybody's going to come up here and defend him when, especially you, who jumped on the bandwagon to force him off the ticket for another candidate, is ridiculous. Like, you didn't want this guy 3 months ago or however many months ago just before the election, and now you're turning around and trying to defend him, and you're throwing the same exact pre-election attacks against Trump. January 6th is what we heard about. The pardons of Trump's people. And by the way, I didn't support every pardon that Donald Trump issued. And yes, the Hunter Biden pardon is a bad pardon, but he also pardoned 2,500 other people that were supposedly nonviolent drug offenders. And included in these supposedly nonviolent drug offenders was a Adrian Peeler is a man who killed a state's witness who was 8 years old and his mother in order to prevent them from testifying against his brother, who was also a murderer. Biden pardoned him because some crappy left-wing organization said that he was a nonviolent drug offender because he was serving federal time for drugs, even though he had that conspiracy for murder on his state record. Adrian Peeler is so notorious in the state of Connecticut, he's the reason why they have a witness protection program. Biden set that man free. He will be out by July of this year, an unrepentant double murderer. I know that some of the January 6th defendants are bad guys. I would not have pardoned them. Trump had the sense to commute some of their sentences, which does not erase their felony conviction. But this guy was a double murderer, absolutely terrible. And yeah, there's a lot of bad pardons under the Biden administration I can get into. But again, in terms of policies, the Trump administration was a deregulatory administration, which frees up the economy for people to engage, make choices for themselves. And we saw the results in that in his first term. As far as his second term, he's dinging him for prices not coming down in under a month. I mean, this is a guy who denied, deflected, went along with the Democratic narrative that inflation was transitory, was telling you that you were wrong because you felt like the economy was getting worse under Biden, which, by the way, now they've come out and admit that the American people were right and the supposed data was wrong. This was in Politico, one of Clinton's comptrollers. So yeah, this guy, Biden, again, he was so bad, they literally threw him off the ticket in a nearly unprecedented move. And Donald Trump was so good that after experiencing Biden, people voted for him back into office. They were like, you know what? We're going to get back with our ex-girlfriend. That's Donald Trump. He cooks a little bit better. And that's where we're at right now.
Thank you very much for that opening as well. We'll bring it right into the open dialogue, gentlemen. The floor is all yours.
Will you condemn the corrupt quid pro quo of Mayor Adams and the Trump Justice Department on the stage, yes or no?
Yeah, so I'm not a
yes or no?
I'm not a fan of Mayor Eric Adams. I never supported Mayor Eric Adams. I know this is your big get, like that you tweeted out about. Let me answer the question.
Yeah.
So I would have pursued the corruption charges against Mayor Eric Adams 100%. I do think he's guilty, but unfortunately, I read some of the rationale for postponing this past the election, and even though you're trying to frame it as a corrupt quid pro quo, it turns out that there's a little bit of an issue in that the state's attorney, Damian Williams, is actually using this, or was supposedly using this at, the district attorney for the Southern District of New York, was actually using the Adams prosecution, which his office filed, as a way to run for mayor of New York City. So this is the
bullshit propaganda by that administration. Do you condemn it
I mean,
or not? Do you condemn it?
You can
do you condemn it?
You can go to Damian.
Do you condemn the
You
quid
can
pro
go
quo?
to DamianWilliamsOfficial.com and see his very much not a campaign website.
Are you
wink,
willing
wink.
to condemn?
And this is the
quid
problem.
pro
So
quo or
yeah,
not?
I definitely disagree with them postponing
Do you
it for Eric
condemn
Adams.
it as corrupt?
Well, I don't believe it's corrupt.
You don't believe it's corrupt? Okay, so you don't think that they were doing it in exchange for immigration policies?
I
right?
don't think so. No.
So you believe?
I think
you
they're
believe
trying to make it
a stooge of the
I think they're
administration.
trying to make something seem. I think they're doing something that I hate in American politics, which they found this guy who's going to run for mayor against Mayor Eric Adams, was one of the architects of this prosecution. I think the case is solid, good, and should be pursued.
Look
But
at
in
how
order
insane this
to
is.
avoid the perception
yeah.
of this being political and biased, they're going to postpone it because they have not dismissed the
Look
charges
at the
completely.
lengths that they'll go through to defend this corrupt administration. We have a corrupt Democratic politician. He acknowledges that he's corrupt, and
It's alleged. He's not convicted.
You don't think Mayor Adams is corrupt?
Oh no, I definitely do.
Okay, so
but that's not a
you
conviction.
agree that Mayor Adams is corrupt? That's correct, right?
Yeah, I think he is, but he's not
100%.
convicted.
Yeah. So we both agree that he's corrupt. And Donald Trump, and you're saying that when the Justice Department comes out and says, "Hey, we're doing this so he plays ball with us on immigration," you're saying you don't believe them.
That's not exactly what they said.
Give me a break.
In the memo.
So Tom Hallman comes on with him on Fox News and says we have an agreement. And by the way, the acting U.S. attorney, not a district attorney, the acting U.S. attorney of the Southern District of New York said this was a quid pro quo. She points to the conversation. It's not even denied that at least one of the major rationales is for immigration policy. And you're sitting here and you're accepting some bullshit post hoc narrative about a website from the U.S. attorney at the time who had no influence on this investigation whatsoever, and you have no evidence of that, and you're willing to say that this exchange is not corrupt.
I mean, he had no influence except for the fact that he's campaigning and showing himself at the press conference where they're announcing the indictments. But okay.
Just to be clear, so you're buying the narrative that this entire thing was a witch hunt.
No, I didn't say it was a witch hunt.
Was it?
I said
a
the
corrupt
exact
investigation?
opposite.
Was it?
I said the exact opposite.
Was it a corrupt investigation or
Is
not?
English not your first
Was
language?
it a corrupt investigation or not?
I don't think it was a corrupt investigation. I think it is legit to go after
be
Mayor
clear,
Eric Adams.
to be
I
clear,
disagree with the
it
Trump
was-
administration.
It was
on
not
this.
a corrupt investigation. It was not a corrupt investigation of a corrupt mayor who he thinks is guilty, and he's okay with a not corrupt investigation with Donald Trump. Why would you stop that investigation? Why would you stop that?
Well, they're worried about an appearance of corruption, which is what they're concerned about.
And you don't think that the appearance of corruption, of writing in your memo that, hey, we want you to play ball on immigration.
That's not what it said in the memo.
What about the appearance of a political statement on that? How about every Southern District of New York U.S. attorney in like the past, I don't know how many years, coming out and condemning it? How about the Friday night massacre we have there? You have nothing to say for that. You think that that's above board? You think it's not corrupt to drop this investigation? And by the way, they didn't drop it permanently. They dropped it temporarily. So if this is all the appearance of political bias, that's what he's worried about, why not drop it permanently? Why not pardon him if that's the reason? The reason why they kept it open and it's not done permanently with prejudice is because they want to hold it over his head, because they might indict him after, as they state, after the election, we might still indict you. They said, by the way, we didn't even look at the facts or law in this case in their own memo. And he's sitting here and telling you that's not corrupt. That's the lengths, and just so you know why this is relevant, that's the lengths people like this will go to defend the obvious, blatant corruption by the Trump administration.
Again, you're just asserting that it's corruption and monologuing about it. It could be corruption. It could be a problem. Again, I think Eric Adams is corrupt. I would have pursued the case. I understand the rationale that one of the guys who's the head of the Southern District of New York, he's the one that is running for mayor, or allegedly going to run for mayor against Mayor Eric Adams. He sets up a campaign website for cases that he has influence on, including the Adams case. Again, it's called, what's this guy's first name? DamianWilliamsOfficial.com. Anybody could look it up for himself. So I have an issue where you have an appearance of corruption from the Southern District of New York. I don't think that's legitimate. I would pursue the case, but you're asserting that it's a quid pro quo because they're saying they'll examine it after the election.
You're naive. You buy the regime's propaganda. So what they're doing, right? Like, if you're a prosecutor, one thing that prosecutors do is run for elected office. And one thing they do is like, hey, look at all this crime we stopped. That doesn't mean that just because I'm showcasing the crimes I stopped, just like, by the way, you had an issue with Alvin Bragg listing the different things that he's done as a public servant. Sorry, dude, that's campaigning. By the way, if Trump ran for office, he would also campaign on going after people and having big cases. That's just how our system works. And you're acting like that's corruption because you're a stooge. You're a stooge of the regime. And we can move on from it, but just look at what
Stooge of the regime.
I mean, you just said it's not a corrupt investigation. You think he's guilty.
I think
and because
Adam,
there's a fucking website,
I think
he should drop the case, but only temporarily.
I think Mayor Eric Adams is corrupt. The website is just supporting evidence that the guy from the Southern District of New York is going to run for mayor of the city of New York. So yeah,
why do you discount the acting U.S. attorney? Why do you discount the line prosecutors?
I didn't say any of that. I said it looks like this guy's running for this position. So yeah, it's weird when your office indicts a guy before an election for a position that you intend to run
On balance,
for.
if you had to pick right now between this whole exchange being corrupt or not corrupt, on balance, would you say it's corrupt or not corrupt?
Which
Given
component?
Given
of
the
it?
evidence that you've seen of the memo of the acting U.S. attorney, the memo of the line prosecutor who said this is corrupt, they can't even find someone from the integrity office to file the motion, and they have to put them all in a room and say, one of you motherfuckers has signed this, because if you don't, you're all fired. And you're saying on balance that what, you're indifferent between the outcomes? That if this wasn't Joe Biden and the IRS whistleblowers, he wouldn't be screaming from the ledges saying, holy shit, look at this corruption. That we saw this, by the way, every second. Joe Biden, there's some insider that says he whispered that he's upset with Merrick Garland, and these guys are screaming from the rooftops, interference, interference, interference. It's blatant in your face. You have no answer for it, and we can move on. But
I've already answered it.
All right, cool. So what about gutting all the agencies? So these are statutorily enacted agencies. The CFPB, just for an example, they say, we're going to delete it. Elon Musk's whim, a billionaire oligarch. You're okay with usurping the legislative authority. Is that right? They can put all their funding down to one on the president's unilateral discretion. Is that right?
So Elon Musk said that he wanted to delete the CFPB. They haven't done that yet. Again, they're examining it. They're auditing it. I remember somebody named Donald Trump who ran for president, and he said that they're going to set up this Department of Government Efficiency prior to him taking office. People like you were like, this is a joke agency. It's not real. Nothing to worry about. This isn't going to do anything. And now, because the talking points have changed, it's President Elon Musk. Oh, no, he's going after all this different spending and whatnot.
You're mischaracterizing what I said before. I've always said that Elon Musk is a dangerous influence on the president. You can look at my statements. You're just assuming shit. But just to be a trillion% clear, you think it would be acceptable if they reduce, for example, the CFPB funding to $1, or they fire all the employees in that agency because,
Well, the CFPB gets its funding from the Federal Reserve rather than from congressional appropriations, which is an issue onto itself. Like, that's an agency that essentially exists in a fourth branch of government.
If the CFPB, it's everyone fired, they close their offices and they use them for immigration detention, do you think that that's
use the offices for immigration detention?
So if it's you can fight the hypothetical.
Like, they're going to put them in the
Federal
Reserve?
They've stated their desire to end the CFPB, to end the Department of Education.
You can have a desire to end the Republicans have been running on ending the Department of Education since the 1980s.
Do you think the president has the unilateral authority?
No, he doesn't have the unilateral authority to get rid of the Department of Education.
So why are they, for example, saying that they're going to do it? Why are they saying that we're going to delete it?
Elon Musk said he wanted to delete the CFPB.
And Trump didn't? Are you serious?
Trump may have said it, but Elon Musk is the one who said
he
that.
said
But
it.
they have not,
like you said, they
have not shut down the CFPB. If they fire the people there, anybody in the executive branch can be fired by the president.
So just to be clear, Elon Musk, who's the head of this agency, which you said, by the way, is a real agency with power, right?
No, I said your talking points changed, that it was a fake agency to a real agency.
Well, the question.
Oh, God. They're talking about the legal justification for Doji. This goes well read on all of this, right? I'm assuming. Hold on. We're rewinding. Stay mad. Did I miss anything good? Or has it just been dumb?
Agency, it's not real, nothing to worry about, this isn't going to do anything. And now, because the talking points have changed, it's President Elon Musk. Oh no, he's going after all this different spending and whatnot.
I'm mischaracterizing what I said before. I've always said that Elon Musk is a dangerous influence on the president. You can look at my statements, you're just assuming shit. But just to be a trillion% clear, you think it would be acceptable if they reduce, for example, the CFPB funding to $1 with him on Fox News and says we have an agreement. And by the way, the acting U.S. attorney, not a district attorney, the acting U.S. attorney of the Southern District of New York said this was a quid pro quo. She points to the conversation. It's not even denied that at least one of the major rationales is for immigration policy. And you're sitting here and you're accepting some bullshit post hoc narrative about a website from the U.S. attorney at the time who had no influence on this investigation whatsoever, and you have no evidence of that. And you're willing to say that this exchange is not corrupt.
I mean, he had no influence except for the fact that he's campaigning and showing himself at the press conference where they're announcing the indictments. But okay.
So you're buying.
Did either of them read the memos? Did Piska read the memo? They Bovee very clearly said he was not making any statement on the authenticity of any of the actual investigative processes around the indictment itself. Bovee explicitly said he wasn't making any statement about the strength of the evidence at all.
In the narrative that this entire thing was a witch hunt.
No, I didn't say it was a witch hunt.
Was it a corrupt investigation? Was it a corrupt investigation or not?
Is English not your first
Was it a
language?
corrupt investigation or not?
I don't think it was a corrupt investigation. I think it is legit to go after Mayor Eric Adams. I disagree with the Trump administration.
It was not a corrupt investigation. It was not a corrupt investigation of a corrupt mayor who he thinks is guilty, and he's okay with a not corrupt investigation with Donald Trump. Why would you stop that investigation? Why would you stop that?
Well, they're worried about an appearance of corruption, which is what they're concerned about.
And you don't think that
You don't think that, oh, he's going to say it. You don't think them dropping the chart, if you were worried about an appearance of corruption, why would you say nothing about Eric Adams flying to Mar-a-Lago and then being on Trump's side and then immediately having all these charges dismissed? Does that not appear to be a million times more corrupt?
appearance of corruption of writing in your fucking memo that, hey, we want you to play ball on immigration?
That's not what it said in the memo.
What about
Yes.
the appearance of political?
That is, what do you mean that's not what it said in the memo?
On that. How about every Southern District of New York U.S. Attorney in like the past, I don't know how many years, coming out and condemning it? How about the Friday Night Massacre we had there? You have nothing to say for that. You think that that's above board? You think it's not corrupt to drop this investigation? And by the way, they didn't drop it permanently. They dropped it
True, they dropped it temporarily, just until after the election, just to make sure that Mayor Adams knows that they can always come back on that ass if you don't play ball.
temporarily. So if this is all the appearance of political bias that he's worried about, why not drop it permanently? Why not pardon him if that's the reason? The reason why they kept it open and it's not done permanently with prejudice is because they want to hold it over his head.
Yep.
Because they might indict him after, as they
Yep.
state, after the election, we might still indict you. They said, by the way, we didn't even look at the facts or law in this case in their own
Correct.
memo. And he's sitting here and telling you that's not corrupt. That's the lengths, and just so you know why this is relevant, that's the lengths people like this will go to defend the obvious, blatant corruption of the Trump administration.
Again, you're
He's
just
sitting here-
asserting that it's corruption and monologuing about it. It could be corruption. It could be a problem. Again, I think Eric Adams is corrupt. I would have pursued the case. I understand the rationale that one of the guys who's the head of the Southern District of New York, he's the one that is running for mayor or allegedly going to run for mayor against Mayor Eric Adams. He sets up a campaign website for cases that he has influence on, including the Adams case. Again, it's called, what's this guy's first name? DamianWilliamsOfficial.com. Anybody can look it up for himself. So I have an issue where you have an appearance of corruption from the Southern District of New York. I don't think that's legitimate. I would pursue the case, but you're asserting that it's a quid pro quo because they're saying they'll examine it after the election.
You're naive. You buy the regime's propaganda. So what they're doing, right? Like if you're a prosecutor, one thing that prosecutors do is run for elected office, and one thing they do is like, hey, look at all this crime we stopped. That doesn't mean that just because I'm showcasing the crimes I stopped. Just like, by the way, you had an issue with Alvin Bragg listing the different things that he's done as a public servant. Sorry, dude, that's campaigning. By the way, if Trump ran for office, he would also campaign on going after people and having big cases. That's just how our system works. And you're acting like that's corruption because you're a stooge. You're a stooge of the regime. And we can move on from it. Just look at what
Stooge of the regime.
I mean, you just said it's not a corrupt investigation. You think he's guilty.
Oh, I think
and
Adam,
there's a fucking website. There's a website.
I think
oh,
Mayor,
drop the case,
no,
but
I think Mayor Eric Adams is corrupt. The
Yep.
website is just supporting evidence that the guy from the Southern District of New York is going to run for mayor of the city of New York. So yeah,
why do you discount the
it
acting
looks-
U.S. attorney? Why do you discount the line prosecutor?
I didn't say any of that. I said it looks like this guy's running for this position. So yeah, it's weird when your office indicts a guy before an election for a position that you intend to
On
run
balance,
for.
if you had to.
Yeah, but like, it's weird. This is the criminal justice system. You need more than it's weird for dismissing a federal case. You need more than it's kind of weird. Like, that might be good enough for a YouTube video, but to dismiss a federal case where the voters of New York City's public funding for elections was allegedly scammed to the tune of, I don't know what, $2 to $10 million? Like, it's got to be more than it's weird, bro. What the fuck? You know what's weird is Epstein dying in prison when Donald Trump was the head of the government. You know what's weird is Donald Trump refusing to release the Epstein files, saying that some good people might get caught in the crosshairs. Like, those are weird things. Is that enough to throw somebody away in prison for life, or to disbar somebody from running for president, or to impeach somebody? Like, what do you mean? Like, it's weird. What a bullshit dog shit argument. Ugh.
If you had to pick right now between this whole exchange being corrupt or not corrupt, on balance, would you say it's corrupt or not corrupt?
He's not even going to answer. He's going to be like, I don't know. I don't have enough evidence to say. I would be, if he even answers a question, I guess I'll give him props or whatever. But
Given the evidence that you've seen,
barely.
the memo of the acting U.S. attorney, the memo of the line prosecutor who said this is corrupt, they can't even find someone from the integrity office to file the motion, and they have to put them all in a room and say, one of you motherfuckers is signing this, because if you don't, you're all fired. And you're saying on balance that what, you're indifferent between the outcomes? That if this wasn't Joe Biden and the IRS whistleblowers, he wouldn't be screaming from the judges saying, holy shit, look at this corruption. We saw this shit, by the way. Every second, Joe Biden, there's some insider that says he whispered that he's upset with Matt
Oh,
Garland.
fuck. He let him get away from it. That's what Pisco shouts at me for. He didn't make him answer that question.
And these guys are screaming from the rooftops, interference. It's blatant in your face. You have no answer for it. And we can move on. But
I've already answered it.
All right, cool. So what about gutting all the agencies? So these are statutorily enacted.
The Eric Adams, that's a killer. I think that's probably the worst example so far of blatant authoritarian corruption from the president, from the executive branch. I think that there should have been a way bigger own at the end there of like, I need you to own these positions. I need you to say that you will never be mad if a Democrat comes into office and dismisses all charges against a Democrat being prosecuted, or I guess Eric Adams is a Democrat. If anybody makes any political statement whatsoever afterwards, like, that's such an unbelievable position.
Agencies. The CFPB, just for an example, they say, we're going to delete Elon Musk's whim, a billionaire oligarch. You're okay with usurping the legislative authority. Is that right? They can put all their funding down to one on the president's unilateral discretion. Is that right?
So Elon Musk said that he wanted to delete the CFPB. They haven't done that yet. Again, they're examining it. They're auditing it. I remember somebody named Donald Trump who ran for president, and he said that they're going to set up this Department of Government Efficiency prior to him taking office. People like you were like, this is a joke agency. It's not real. Nothing to worry about. This isn't going to do anything. And now, because the talking points have changed, it's President Elon Musk. Oh no, he's going after all this different spending and whatnot.
And mischaracterizing what
What an unbelievable straw man and non-response to what Pisco just said, but okay.
I said before, I've always said that Elon Musk is a dangerous influence on the president. You can look at my statements, you're just assuming. But just to be a trillion% clear, you think it would be acceptable if they reduce, for example, the CFPB funding to $1, or they fire all the employees in that agency because,
So the CFPB gets its funding from the Federal Reserve rather than from congressional appropriations, which is an issue onto itself. Like, that's an agency that essentially exists in a
Look at how another talking point non-answer.
fourth branch
if the
of government.
CFPB, it's everyone fired, they close their offices and they use them for immigration detention. Do you think that that's
Use the
unacceptable?
offices for immigration detention?
So if it's, you can fight the hypothetical.
Like they're gonna put them in the
they,
Federal
they've
Reserve?
stated their desire to end the CFPB, to end the Department of
You can have a desire to end the Republicans have been running on ending the Department of Education
using
since
the
the 1980s.
president has the unilateral
No, he doesn't have the unilateral authority to get rid of the Department of
So
Education.
why are they, for example, saying that they're going to do it? Why are they saying that we're going to delete it?
Elon Musk said he wanted to delete the CFPB.
And Trump didn't? Are you serious?
Trump may have said it, but Elon Musk is
Of
the one who
course
said
he
that.
said
But
it.
they have not.
Like you said, they
have
can't
not
ban
shut down the CFPB. If they fire the people there, anybody in the executive branch can be fired by the president.
So just to be clear, Elon Musk, who's the head of this agency, which you said, by the way, is a real agency with power, right?
No,
I don't know why they're focused on the CFPB. They should just look at what's happened with USAID or what's happened with the Treasury payment freeze thing. Those are the two strong things. Maybe did they already talk about it, or maybe they'll get to it?
talking points changed, that it was a fake agency to a real
Well,
agency.
the question is whether or not it's an authorized agency, whether or not it's statutorily, properly enacted, and time will tell on that front. But he absolutely has effective control. You would agree, Elon Musk has effective control over a ton of American policies. That's fair, right?
I don't think so.
You don't think Elon Musk? So what we're gonna do, you do not think Elon Musk is having an effect on
He's
U.S.
just
policy?
right now he's
That's your position?
examining the government.
You don't think that Elon Musk is influencing, for example, how much money goes to
See,
particular
now you're like
agencies?
What
weaseling.
about all the he's calling him a weasel. God, he's such a disgusting. What about all of the people that have already been fired or have had their funds frozen, or the massive layoffs that happened? Wasn't this all done at the behest of Doji?
Around the terms. You said effective control, and now you're like influencing. There's a big difference, a giant valley between those two things. But of course, you're trying to use your weasel tactics because again, you can't defend any of the Biden policies. Notice how all of this is like, oh, Elon Musk and the CFPB, oh, Elon Musk and the
What
USA.
is it? Biden's not the president right now. What is this? Well, I don't know what this debate is over. Oh, Trump or Biden's whose policies are better? Okay.
Oh, can they get rid of the
Elon have
Department of
significant influence?
Does he have influence over the president?
Of
Yes,
course,
he's
yes.
in the Oval Office. Nobody
let's
said
talk
that.
about
Again, you said control. You went from control to influence. And you pretend like I don't notice that.
Can you point to a single thing that Biden did that was as corrupt as pardoning all the Jan-6ers? Oh, wait.
Oh, he's gonna say pardoning his family, and Pisco already owns this point. So
Pardoning his son? What?
So you think that
pardoning his son, pardoning federal government officials with a preemptive pardon that dates back 10 years, 3 years before any of the offenses?
I just want to be clear. You think that it is more corrupt? It is more corrupt. I agree it's corrupt. You agree it's more corrupt to pardon Hunter Biden for his tax-related offenses, for all offenses,
For every
all-
offense for
I agree
10 years,
it's corrupt.
including
Yeah,
offenses unknown?
Than to pardon the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers that committed and were convicted of seditious conspiracy.
So some of those
I just want to
people,
hear you say
some
that.
of those people
I
like
want to hear you say
Stuart,
that.
some of those people like Stuart Rose had their convictions commuted.
Do you think that
Like,
it's
they
more,
weren't actually
is it
pardoned.
more corrupt to pardon Hunter Biden than to
Yes,
Stuart Rose?
100% your own family.
So this is a guy who
Yes.
actually planned violence. It was proved beyond reasonable doubt to overthrow the government, and he's saying that it's more corrupt to pardon your son, which is corrupt, than the people who tried to overturn the 2020 election. That shows you he's not serious about constitutional republicanism. He's not serious about democracy. Anyone who can sit and say that with a straight face is fucking lying. And to say that everyone, 1,500 people, how do you defend that?
1,500 people? Yeah, he pardoned 1,500 people. Joe Biden pardoned 2,500 people in a list that was given to a minority
the
including
commutation
murderers.
had to do with people that were had to do with people who had sentences commuted because they'd stayed at home during like COVID lockdown for prison shares or some COVID related bullshit. Totally different than 1,600 people that were convicted of an insurrection, or not insurrection, I guess we could say rioting or violence that was like in direct connection to your run for re-election. It's totally not even remotely close to the same thing.
That were told to him to be nonviolent.
And by your own
is
retelling-
the raw number of those people?
By your
Like,
own
is that
retelling,
the issue?
by your own retelling, he was lied to by a leftist group, in which case it would certainly be.
Well, they gave him that list and then
Yeah,
he
so
put
if
up
he's
the
just
ones.
if he's just an idiot and going off the left,
I mean,
as you're suggesting,
Trump campaigned on pardoning and commuting the January 6ers. The American people voted for him, and he enacted those promises. Again,
Trump
day
also
one of
wanted
the
to be
Trump
on dictator day
presidency,
That's not responsive. You could run on. I'm running on unilaterally as the president of the United States, abolishing the Supreme Court and the Congress with the stroke of a pen. If he won the election, does that mean that he's allowed to do that? That he should do that? Can the president literally just run on anything and then do anything, even if it's unconstitutional? Is that the argument? What is this argument of like they voted for him to do this? So the fuck what? But that doesn't mean anything. You can vote for the head of your fifth grade student council, and he could promise hot dogs for lunch every day and no more homework. That doesn't mean he can deliver on it. Like what?
Day one of the Trump presidency, something that people don't usually see for the politicians. He had an hour-long session where he was going over all the different orders that he was doing in order to show the American people that he was keeping to his word.
Okay, he
Joe
felt like
Biden
really
couldn't
knows
talk
orders.
for 5 minutes. And again, notice the lack of defense of any of Joe Biden's policies from this man
Let's-
right here.
let's
It's
go
all
after-
orange man bad,
let's-
Trump
let's-
bad, Trump bad,
let's
January
talk about
6th.
the
Where were
policies
you
of
on
Joe
January
Biden.
6th? Do you have an alibi? That's all he's got.
So Joe Biden, 100.
Why is AJW tripling down on Jan 6? It just makes him look stupid. No, it doesn't. And the Trump crowd, this makes him look awesome. The Trump cult requires buy-in to every single part of every part of the deep state narrative, of the constellation of all the crazy beliefs that all the Trump people believe into. You can't break with any of these big points. So like COVID, lockdown bullshit, vaccine bullshit, like Trump false prosecution bullshit. Like you have to be on point with every single one of these things. So you have to own all the J6 stuff. But they do it. That's fine. 2020 election, stolen bullshit.
Man right here.
let's
It's
go
all
after-
orange man bad,
let's-
Trump
let's-
bad, Trump bad,
let's
January
talk about
6th. Where were
Joe
you on
Biden.
January 6th?
So-
Do you have an alibi?
So-
That's all he's got.
So Joe Biden, 100%. So immediately, instead of focusing on centralizing executive authority, Joe Biden was going after bipartisan legislative wins. Bipartisan legislative wins that were voted on by Republicans as well. Not the American Rescue Plan, but the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, the Chips and Science Act. These are pieces of legislation that invested and protected the American worker, that invested in our economy. Bipartisan gun legislation, where even if you're a Second Amendment person, these are to stop domestic abusers from getting access to guns and things like that. So we can talk about legislative wins that he pursued honorably, as the president should. And then yeah, I mean, what legislation are we waiting for Trump? We're waiting for massive tax cuts, and he wants to defund Medicaid. They're telling you he wants to defund Medicaid. He wants to increase the military budget. Are you like a war hawk now? By $150 billion. How is that responsible? How is that good policy?
The military budget goes up under every administration, number one. Number two, the tax cuts put money back in the American people's pockets, and the proof of is in the results of the economic policies. Again, incomes for ordinary people went up $4,400 under Biden and all those investments in the American economy. What did we get? A decline in your income adjusted for inflation by $2,200.
Classic. I mean,
and in addition to that, like these
What is he even citing here? How do you measure this over a 4-year term with COVID? I'm curious what he's citing to here.
programs like the Inflation Reduction Act, which is really about climate change. You can look at all the different ridiculous programs that they've done under the guise of climate change. I mean, I just did a story about Maine where they were gifted 4 electric school buses in a school district from a company called Lions Energy. Now, these buses catch fire, they break down. One of them stalled twice en route to pick up the kids. And this guy, who's the driver of this bus, had to veer off into a snowbank in order to prevent himself from crashing into an intersection. So that was given through an EPA program. And by the way, this is one of the reasons why they're trying to examine all these different various grants under the Biden administration. And there were free buses under the condition that the school district had to run them for 5 years. Problem is, they didn't work. They sent them back to the manufacturer. Manufacturer, again, a Canadian company, Lions Energy. They say that they're fixed, return them back to the school, and they're still broken. They're still busted. And now these school districts across the country are stuck due to this ridiculous environmental program. Another ridiculous environmental program from the Biden administration, again, the bipartisan Inflation Reduction Act, that's actually a climate change bill, is building an electric car charging network around the country. Now, we're only a few years into this program, but it had a full budget of $7.5 billion. And after 3 years, they built 8 of these stations. It shouldn't take 10 years.
Well,
like, think about
How much time should it take for massive infrastructure building in the United States of America? What I love it when people say that. It shouldn't take this long. About how long should it take? What do you mean? What?
Oh, wait. You can say the
about the
plan
pace,
sucks.
though.
You can say the plan
8
sucks.
in 2 years. Just think about that. So you get 40 after 10 years at that pace. That's horrible.
You can say the plan sucks, but you're acting as though it's not going according to plan. They're trying to do private-public partnerships and not just work everything like fiat, because we recognize that it's a complex system that we live in. But you talked about prices. I want to talk about that. So if prices don't come down in the next 4 years, are you going to call the policies of Donald Trump to affect the economy a disaster?
Yeah, of course.
If they don't come down,
He won't. He'll blame the deep state.
He promised that prices would drop, and he said he was going to do things to help prices drop. So yeah, if
inflation
prices
is up.
It's February.
Yeah, what I'm telling you is,
Are you still using statistics from January?
No,
like, you know how they use
I
the
just
egg
wanna
stat
be
that was
clear.
like the price of eggs as of January 15th?
I want to be clear.
They blame
So
Trump.
I just want to be clear. You should not expect your prices to decrease. You should not expect your prices to decrease. So we'll see you again in 2 years when prices have not decreased, and where Trump, by example, is talking about and edging for these massive tariff wars. You guys saw that, right? Where he's having these fake propaganda victories where nothing of any consequence happens, and so you should not expect those prices to come down. So I'm very, very looking forward to when you post that video in 2 years saying Trump's policies are a disaster because prices have not come down.
I think you can expect some of your energy prices to come down, and that will have some downstream effects on the
Oh,
economy.
really? You know one of the major providers for energy in the United States of America, exporters? Canada. And who right now, like, relations with Canada have never been worse. He's openly talking
Once Canada is a province of the United States of America, we
Yeah,
will have access.
And then he memes it away. Hilarious meme, bro.
and who right now, like, relations with Canada have never been worse. He's openly talking
Once Canada is a province of the United States of America, we
it's
will
a
have
meme.
access to
It's
all of their
it's
oil.
a meme. It's a meme just because they think
Epic.
that this whole thing's a joke for them. It's about owning the liberals. You have flipping comments like that where they're not taking it seriously.
Yep.
The expansionist vision of this administration, for example, talking about owning Gaza. What do you think about that?
Well,
and now Rubio's doubling down on it. So what do you think? You just think it's a posture?
Learn more about Atheists for Liberty and what we do.
Oh my God, I didn't mean to click that. Fuck.
To just rewind the tape, he then switches to influence,
No,
right? So he's that's where you start the negotiation.
Yeah, okay. But
Oh my
You
God.
just think it's a posture. You just think it's fake.
Well, I do think it's a posture. I hope it's a posture. 'Cause I don't
Oh,
wanna-
it's all negotiations. It's all negotiations. Please, Pisco, bring up the fact that we're the hostages. I thought the hostages were supposed to be out by now, yesterday afternoon. So does that mean his negotiation positions failed, or?
to the United States of America.
Yeah,
We will
it's a
have
meme.
access to
It's
all of their
It's a
oil.
meme. It's a meme just because they think that this whole thing's a joke for them. It's about owning the liberals. You have flipping comments like that where they're not taking it seriously. The expansionist vision of this administration, for example, talking about owning Gaza. What do you think about that?
Well,
and now Rubio's doubling down on it. So what do you think? You just think it's a posture. You just think it's fake.
Well, I do think it's a posture. I hope it's a posture because I don't want anything to do with Gaza. Now, Greenland, that is a vision for the future, and I'm definitely
Oh, fucking epic meme, bro.
on board.
Would
for
you
Greenland.
end NATO? Would you end NATO to take over Greenland?
Would I end NATO to take over
Would you end
Greenland?
America's
No, we
involvement
want to
in
buy Greenland.
Okay, but Denmark's is not for sale.
Well, that's where you start the negotiation.
Yeah, okay. But what about Gaza?
All this fucking negotiation, bro.
Let's talk
Yeah,
about
I don't want Gaza.